obviously it's a privilege to be involved in something like this. I think it's got a tremendous amount of potential. Anytime you have a Lunch and Learn series, you get to learn a little bit more about what people do. And in my role as the athletic director at a small college, I have cut grass this morning, weeded and sprayed. And now I'm standing before you cleaned up and talking about what I do on a day-to-day basis. There's 17 sports and over 300 athletes that come through our hallways on a regular basis. And in that process, we have to teach, guide, and lead. And that's kind of the philosophy that I've used over the last 2 years. I was a coach prior to this and I had a tremendous amount of success. And I knew probably at my son's age now of 9 months that I was going to work in sports. And I have never deviated from that, almost to a fault from a standpoint of my competitiveness. But being involved in intercollegiate athletics, to me, is where you're going to have the biggest hands-on opportunity to affect and shape somebody's life. I've worked in the NBA, Major League Baseball, and that is fun on game days. But outside of that, there is no fun involved. It is just a grindstone work, and the impact that I had didn't make a difference. And so today, I kind of wanted to tell you about the Teach, Guide, Lead philosophy. I want to try and share some of the stories that have made me who I am, but also made the young people who've come through the hallways and the doorways very special to me, because I know that their lives have been impacted by our paths crossing. And what makes me qualified to stand up here, I'm not real sure. I think there's probably a lot of people in the room who could probably be a little bit better at this than I am, but the reality is for 10, 11 years I coached cross country. 13 conference championships, 12 Coach of the Year awards later was nice. It's a great validation to somebody saying, you know what you're doing, Craig, but let's be honest, those plaques are pretty rusty right now in my office. And they are dusty, and those kids have come and gone. But in this process, I have met some young people who I still remain in touch with today. And that's the whole part of this. It's a storytelling. The story, there's probably 2 or 3 kids that have impacted me in 13 years that I will never forget. My first year here, I was the cross-country coach and the sports information director, and we relieved our men's basketball coach and golf coach of his duties. So I had a little bit of passion about golf, and I took over the golf team. We went to a tournament in Pikeville, Kentucky, where they had to get the cows off the golf course for us to play. 9 holes, and they changed the tee boxes up on the second 9 to make 18. I have never in my life seen anything as backwoods as I saw that day. But that van ride was so good because I met a group of guys I'd never seen before. I mean, as a cross-country coach, you see your group every day. As an SID, you see the rest of them, but you don't interact with them like a coach does. So we had the conference tournament, and that band of golfers was horrible, minus one guy. And he was a senior, and his mother and father were just passionate about him. He had a speech impediment. He was, Lees-McRae was the right fit for him. His dad was the mayor of Griffin, Georgia. He was a huge athletics guy, and here is his son, Walker Cook III, on our campus in his senior year. And so we go to this conference golf tournament down at TGK, the Carowinds exit and everything. And the first 3 days were just absolutely mind-boggling to me. I pulled all of my hair out. I mean, I have never seen golf scores that high, 130, 135. I'm just like, what? And, here's Walker, just steady shooting, mid-70s. So on the last day, I told the guys, let's go give it all we could. Let's not embarrass ourselves. Let's do the best we could. So I was going to ride in a golf cart and watch each one and circle back. Well, I watched this one guy that I talked to last week throw his hat and his club after he made a triple bogey snowman on a par 5 and 8 on a par 5. I parked the golf cart and said, I can't walk anymore with this guy. Can't watch. So I walked with Walker, and we walked for the next 12 holes, and we talked about everything but golf. And Walker's dad is a man of just a great esteem. He's a great guy. Probably played sports at Georgia or Auburn, Alabama. He's just that type of a figure. And his mother looks like Jackie Kennedy Onassis. I mean, just not a hair out of place. She's got her big sunglasses, and she's just walking, cheering her walker along the whole time. So we got to the tee shot on 18, and we had done some math in our heads, and we knew what he was shooting. We knew what the field had shot. Lees-McRae at that time had never had an all-conference golfer, and this was our best shot. I mean, when you got everybody else 130s and they're freshmen and sophomores, the improvement's not going to get better real quick. Walker hit his tee shot, and he blocked it out right a little bit. And I said, it's no worries. We have to get par. We just have to get par. So his second shot on this par 4, which was probably 470, and by most stretches, that's a pretty long par 4 for those who play golf. He hit his next shot, and we calculated everything, and that was before the day where I really got into this caddying deal that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But, it's all a mind game, man. You've got to build the self-esteem of the guy who's about to execute the shot. He hit it, and wind came up. It landed in the greenside bunker short of the hole. And that moment, he switched, and it was just like, I'm in the bunker. Coach Mack, I can't do this. I can't do it. And, at that point in time, you have about 3 minutes of a walk to convince this kid to get up and down, and it's going to be okay. And I said, you're the best sand player I've ever seen. I hadn't seen him hit the ball out of the stand in 3 days. I don't know if he'd been in the bunker in 3 days. He goes, you really think so? I said, Walker, I'm not going to lie to you right now. I said, you got to believe in me right now. I said, I'm the only friend you got on this golf course. And his mom and dad are over in the gallery, and they are doing anything and everything they can to get his attention, to say it's okay. So the boy hits a shot out of the bunker, and it was great. But it was still 25 feet short of the hole. We looked at that putt. Poor old CBS would have gone to commercial as long as we looked at that putt. And I said, you just got to put it here, here. Well, he stands over, and he's got tears in his eyes because he knows this is a make or break deal for him. And at that point, in that age, that putt was everything. He could care less in 2 weeks about graduating. He could care less about what his job's going to be. He could care less about it. That putt needed to go in. It's sports. And it's the competitiveness that makes us all enjoy intercollegiate athletics, that bond and so forth. Well, that putt was about the 12-foot mark. It had 13 more feet, and here I am acting like I have no sense. It's in the heart. I'm ripping the chainsaw. I'm moving around. I'm jumping up and down, and all you hear is, it goes in. His dad has rushed over here. His mother is crying. He's made all conference. I talked to Walker 2 weeks ago. He's an assistant principal at a school in Birmingham, Alabama. He has 2 children. He is married. And his dad called me 2 months ago. And his dad spoke to the Rotary Club in Griffin, Georgia the other day about the thing that has impacted his life the most. And it was that walk. And I tell you, there's nothing that I'll do that can match that. I have been successful, and I have won, and I have been blessed, and all this great stuff that's happened. But, when you have a dad call you and tell you something like that, and let's keep in mind that happened 12 years ago. The guy's a grandfather. The son is an assistant principal with an opportunity to be a head principal someday. And they think about that, and they reflect back on that day. And I'm like, that's why we do what we do. That's why I do it. That's why we have these guys in here representing the athletic department. We make an impact and a difference on these young people at a time and a place in their life where they need it really bad. I was going to talk about social media and that effect. And, if there was a bigger crowd, I would have probably said we're webcasting this to a couple different golf courses where people are making the turn. But the reality is that personal touch will overcome my status on Facebook or that text on my phone. That personal touch that Walker and I had, I was in Walker's wedding. I treat Walker like a brother to me. I would do anything for him because of that magical 3 or 4 day time period. But reality is that walk that we had and the conversation. College athletics, to me, there is nothing better than a van ride, a huddle, a locker room. That is the most sacred place in a person's life, man or woman. I don't care what anybody says. I feel sorry for the non-athletes. I'll be honest with you, I really do, because they'll never be in a huddle. Because you won't know what it's truly like. My greatest times were on van rides. I've driven down 221 to Blowing Rock to get to Moses Cone. With fog, I couldn't even see the dashboard. I have been in places I shouldn't have been, and I've gotten kids lost and thought I was minutes away from calling the National Guard. You remember that one night that I called you for advice. We've been 3 hours looking for these kids. I mean, I'm one phone call away from getting the choppers in to look for these kids. And I'm just like, I love them. I love it. We make a difference. The most rewarding times of my career came from a guy telling me, Craig, it really won't matter until they call you and tell you they got a job, or they call and tell you they got married, or they call and tell you that they're having a child. And I was like, I'm going to put another plaque on that wall. I'm going to get another Coach of the Year award, and it's going to be really good. And, you know, it's going to be awesome. So it's been 2 weeks ago. I had a superintendent from a school district in Smithfield County. We're in Johnston County, North Johnston, South Johnston. It's 45 minutes, 45 minutes on the other side of Raleigh, right past I-95. It's down to 2 guys for this middle school teaching position. One, I have no idea. The other is the kid I know for 6 years. And I thought the world of it. Now let's rewind. 6 years ago, we looked at a video that we got, and it was a VHS tape at that one time, talking about technology, of a kid running 63 seconds for 400-meter hurdles. He was a tall, lanky white kid from New Jersey. He came down with his mother, his father, his brother, his sister to bring her out for a visit. The most polite, yes sir, no sir. Brad Tennis. Brad came in and he worked so hard, and then all of a sudden Brad got better. He started chasing the watch, chasing the times, and he got so close, but never close to where he was going to get to national championships. We made Brad a captain. Brad started a Bible study group. Brad did the homeschool teaching. You know, all of a sudden Brad became this very diverse person. He did his student teaching. He homeschool teaching. It was unbelievable. Now let's fast forward that phone call. Guy tells me it's down to 2 people, and he's calling about Brad Tennis. If you know me well enough, I'm kind of blunt on the phone when I really believe in something. I said, well, you're wasting your time if you go call the other guy's references. I said, Brad Tennis is your guy. I said, I'll bring my son over there tonight, and Brad can babysit him. I said, I believe in Brad Tennis as if he was my own son. I said, that is a young man who's got a bright future with an extreme amount of passion, and he can do the job. 20 minutes into the phone conversation with a couple of these other questions, have you ever seen Brad hurt a child? Have you ever seen Brad yell at a child? You know, the checklist that they have to do at the state school superintendent's job. He said, well, Mr. McPhail, looks like I won't be calling the other candidate. He goes, I've just hired Brad Tennis. So Brad calls me the next, 30 minutes later after he got this phone call in tears. That's what it's all about. You know, that relationship with those kids and having that impact will forever make an indelible impression on them. You know, sure, I'm going to get Brad to donate back to the Bobcat Club, or I'm going to get Brad to recruit some kids from that area because of the experience that he had here. I mean, it's just, I think that's one of the great things. I mean, there are bad things if you're an athletic director. I mean, there's a lot of bad things. Look at that guy right now at Chapel Hill. I read this morning where they want to fire the AD because the football coach that he hired is a liar and a cheat. Well, they fired the football coach last night, and it's only a matter of time before the AD's probably gone. And then you're sitting there going, you're not at their dorm room at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock telling them that's a bad decision. You've got to try and utilize all your skill sets around you and help them make better decisions and be a role model. And that's what we're trying to do. But, calling a parent and telling them their child has been in a serious accident and they're dead it's the tough part. Building a relationship with a student athlete and then watching them go somewhere else because Lees-McRae is too small, or it's in the mountains, it's too cold, or the facilities aren't, that hurts. And probably more so than anything is, and that's why we have such the biggest impact, and it comes back to the huddle, the van ride, and so forth, is misguided use, bad decisions, adolescence. There's just sometimes where that Bud Light is more convincing than anything you can find. And there's nothing that I can do, Mitch can do, to tell them otherwise. You just hope that the lessons that they've learned in this short time that they're here with us, that they can do it. Claire Weeks came into my life 8 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. She came on a recruiting visit in the summer. I went over there and met her. She had on overalls, and I was like, okay. I mean, she can run. I don't care. The mother said, don't give my daughter an eating disorder. That was the instructions I had from the mother. Now, the mother was unhealthy. I said, yes, ma'am. She loved her daughter, and she entrusted me to be her caretaker for the next 4 years. You know, as coaches, I wrote this down last night, the multiple roles we play, and this is just off the top of my head, and it really is poor. Equipment manager, concierge, travel planner, cheerleader, disciplinarian, father, mother, academic supervisor. I could go on, a counselor, bank accountant. I mean, I've played the role of everything, you know. So Claire's with me for four years. And Claire, ironically, came from Smithfield in that Johnston County area. Claire is now a state highway patrolman at the Outer Banks. I think she's doing all right. I mean, you talk about somebody who's come a long, long way. She knew she was going to do criminal justice the day she walked on this campus. And she has worked for the State Bureau of Investigation. She's worked at the Sheriff's Department. And now she's wearing a uniform, driving one of the gray and blue cars that we all hope don't ever stop us. So, I mean, you think about the impact. And, I mean, there's so many kids that come into your life and everything. And probably one of my most vivid stories, because I remember it yesterday because it happened on the day that my brother had his first child. It was the first day of school, and at that time when I was coaching, I had a van, and we took him up to grandfather's track, and we were doing this workout that would make you see Jesus. I mean, that was the theme of the workout. You would not leave unless you had puked or passed out. That was just, there was no getting back on the van with any kind of energy. We rode back to campus, and we were just trying to get back to campus. Well, Derek Williamson came to me from Greenwood, South Carolina. And, you know, you look at Derek, and Stu, you remember Derek. I mean, just, that is the All-American kid. And when you looked at him, you go, that kid can fly. Absolutely fly. I mean, he could run to the mailbox, and that form was beautiful. I mean, it's just unreal. So Derek had trained like a beast, and this was Derek's sophomore year. He'd had a really good freshman year, but not quite to the level that he thought he should do. So Derek's up there, and we're doing this workout. I'm blowing the whistle, and I'm yelling, I'm screaming, and you can barely see your hand because there's a mist coming down, there's a fog, and it's just that whole welcome to Ireland, welcome to hell, that type of scenario. And Derek comes over, and he's in tears. I'm like, well, I mean, that is one of the end results of this workout, but I don't know if tears is what I thought I'd say. He goes, my foot's broken. I go, there is no way your foot is broken. There's just no way. And, you know, at that point in time, it's kind of like I told Walker, he's the best sand player I've ever seen. I'm now a doctor and going, that foot's not broken. And he goes, no, it's broken, Coach. I know, it hurts bad. I said, no, I don't know. I thought about it, and I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let me think about it. Well, I get back to my office, and my brother's calling saying, hey, we just had our, you know, Molly's at the hospital. They're going to do a C-section. You know, our first son's being born. Well, so you've got Derek and his broken foot, and my job as a coach who wants to win, and you got your brother with his first child. I'm like, all right, Derek, I need 2 hours to think about this as I get in my car and I try and go 190 miles an hour in my Honda Accord to Spartanburg. And I've been on that route a zillion times, and I got lost that one time. So I get there after the birth, but that's neither here nor there. In that process, on the thought, I called Derek. I said, Derek, go to a doctor. Go home and go get an MRI on it, just in case. Because the kid knows how his foot feels and not me. I'm just being kind of selfish because I just want him to keep running. Sure enough, when you do an MRI on a bone, cracks kind of light up like a Christmas tree. Well, Derek's looked like one of those houses that overextends themselves on Christmas. I mean, there were cracks in that bone like you couldn't believe. So he comes back, and at this point in time, he goes, Coach, I'm going to graduate in 4 years. I'm not redshirting. I said, okay. And at that time, our fitness center was where the Broyhill Fitness Center was, but not a single machine worked. He had some really great insurance. His parents were school teachers, and they had this bone stimulator. And I said, get it, Derek. What do we know? Get it. Well, he hooked himself up to this bone stimulator 24 hours a day. He got a membership at Peak Fitness, and we got the pool. He swam so much in that pool, the skin on his rib cage started peeling away. It looked like he had scales. He's part fish. And I would work him out to 3 to 6 to 8 hours a day on that pool or in that stationary bike. I mean, he was losing weight like there was no tomorrow. The bone stimulator was working. Everything was going well. I thought we were good. We said, I tell you what, we're going to run unattached for the homecoming race. We got another race the following weekend in App State. And we have 2 weekends off, and then we got the conference championship. He said, Coach, I'm gonna run in the conference championship. Okay, Derek, okay. We run this home race, and we had an interesting course. We came through campus and down in the lower fields, and Milligan brought a Kenyan. I was like, oh gosh, what a way to welcome back a foot from 8 weeks of pain. And I said, well, let's just ease into it. 3.5 mile mark, Derek passes the Kenyan. All right, maybe the foot's okay. We get the next morning, I call him and said, he's a little sore. I said, all right, we'll stay off of it. So we went back to the pool and did this thing. So we go to App State. He runs a 1.5 PR. I'm like, something's working. He's excited. His mom and dad are, mother's very trepid with like, what are we doing on this leg? The dad's like, go for it. It's the testosterone of college athletics from a proud father who loves to share with his guys at the club or over dinner or with somebody. Yeah, my boy's on scholarship. He's doing really good. So we go to the conference championship, and Stu, you guys came for this one. And there's a guy from Barton College who everybody thought was just unbeatable. And Derek and I had talked in the hotel room that night, and I said, Derek, he cannot handle you for 2 miles. I said, run him into the ground. I said, I do not care what you have left at the 3 mile mark, the 4 mile mark, or the 5 mile mark, but he won't be there with you. They ran the first mile in 4:40. That's a little fast. They got to the 2 mile mark in 9:56. That was a PR for Derek. The poor kid who was with him, who in front of his home crowd had everybody in the dorms. They were all packed on the lines. He just wilted. Derek won by 1.5 minutes. I took my shirt off. I grabbed a tree limb that was probably about 20 feet long, and I waved it, and I crashed it down on the ground. I did this, and I did that. And that boy won the conference championship. 2 weeks later, we go to the regionals, and there were these teams, and he said, what do you think my chances are? I said, well, I don't know why you worked 8 hours a day out early in the season to now question your own abilities. So we're going to go out there and run the race we need to run, and let's see what happens. 4 mile mark, we're doing the math because top 2 individuals not on the top 2 teams go to the national championships. Oh, they're in California, by the way, over in Los Angeles. So we're kind of intrigued by that option. He starts moving up. He crosses the finish line, and he's going to the national championships. So we went from a broken foot on the first day of the year to a conference champion to going to the national championships. And I will never forget rolling around Beverly Hills at 1 o'clock in the morning with Derek Williams. I talked to Derek probably 6 months ago. He's married. He's got a very successful business in Austin, Texas, coaching elite athletes. He had 3 guys in the Olympic trials 4 years ago. He's got some kids right now who will probably make a scene in London in 2012. College athletics brings those people into your life, but it's also what we give back to them, the life lessons. There are, as I stated, the bad times, and there are some kids who I have punished unceremoniously, and time after time. Taking a uniform away from an 18 to 22-year-old is probably stronger than any whipping a mother or father could give, because it takes away that opportunity to compete. It also teaches a lesson that they will learn forever on being on time, being courteous, being polite, understanding everybody else. In this process, I've been to the pin relays with a young man who was a talented kid but had to work really hard. Father was a lawyer in Charlottesville, Virginia. His mother was just a great woman. We went to pin relays and they webcast that. And Jill and everybody watched it at home, and you could see everybody in the dorms of Lees-McRae chatting on that thing. Go Lewis, go. Go Lewis, go. They were not in Pennsylvania at that pin relay historic event, but they sure felt like they were. You know how it brings you together? We played for the national championship for men's soccer 2 years ago. And I was on the phone with Jill. I had flown down there. I got into my hotel room at 4:30 that morning. And I got up at 7 the next day to go to practice with the boys just to watch and see. Everybody's nervous. I mean, we're not supposed to be there. You have 1/3 the amount of scholarships. You have 1/8 the amount of the budget. And we're wearing stuff that we might as well have got from a 5 and dime store. We played that game, and we were down 2-0 with 8 minutes to go, and I'm calling Jill and saying, well, I'll be back tonight. I'm going to call the travel agent. We scored that first goal, so it's 2-1. I said, well, hold on a second. Less than 2 minutes ago, boy just out of nowhere cleans up a shot. It's tied at 2. I have jumped up and down. I've run around crazy going, I will stick around for the weekend, it seems. We go to penalty kicks, and obviously when you add what we saw for the Women's World Cup, penalty kicks kind of make a person go crazy. The game's webcast. There's 120 people in our training room that holds 30. There's probably 150 people in Evans Auditorium watching it on the big screen. And anybody who's not at those 2 places is watching it in their office, on campus, in the dorms. So we go to penalty kicks, and my phone's ringing, and you know me, if you know, I'm going to answer my phone just about any time, so I'm talking to people. Well, I'm watching it live before it happens. So I'm telling the trainer room, you made it, on the first kick, and they're going, shut up, and they hang up. All right, so long story short, last penalty kick, our keeper saves it. We score. Our athletic training department will tell you to this moment, they have never been around something as crazy as that moment. From the gym to the faculty hill to the dorms to Evans Auditorium, you would have thought it was a mob scene. Cars honking, people yelling, people screaming. I talked to the chair of the board of trustees, 5 minutes after that game. I said, Tommy, I need to get a bus to leave from Banner Elk to Tampa tomorrow night, and I can put 60 kids on it. He said, do it. We had a bus leave at midnight. There was a driver who met him in Daytona Beach who swapped off. They got to the game at 11 o'clock, and they made more noise than any group I've ever seen before in my life. And we lost 1-0. But that moment and that memory of that weekend will last with those kids who played, and those kids who rode on that bus, and those kids who watched it on the internet. That's what sports does. It brings you together. I mean, we have all walks of life on each one of our teams, from California to South Carolina, from England to Nigeria. I mean, it's just a unique atmosphere that brings us all together at this small, tiny little place to play a game. And I think that that's what makes it so fun, and the impact that we have. We've been fortunate to go places we're not normally able to go. I went to the national championships, 5 years ago with my women's cross country team. 9 girls, 5 had never been in a plane before. There's some cultural experience going along there. We flew into O'Hare Airport at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, one of the busiest times at one of the busiest airports, just for the cultural experience. I mean, we had to do them like they were 3 years old and chain link each one of us together so nobody got lost or left. But I mean, there's something about what we do in college athletics that makes a difference. I think that the beauty of small college athletics is I'm going to be on the ground floor. I'm going to cut a blade of grass. I'm going to mop a bathroom from time to time. I'm going to get pretty anal about how certain things look. because we're all wearing different hats, but we're doing it together. I just think about the impact that we make on the community. And, you know, if there were more people in here, or the people who watch this, you know, our men's soccer team hosts a Halloween trunk or treat where every kid in the county comes by to get candy from our men's soccer players who are dressed up in all sorts of costumes. We've been houses for Habitat for Humanity. We've worked at the Life Care Center with the elderly people, playing bingo to chess and checkers. We host road races for individuals to come take part and enjoy the healthy exercise. What we're giving back and what we're bringing are such a great balance. You know, our community friends, our people who aren't directly involved with our athletic teams make such a big difference. The support that we get from people who come watch us play, the knowing that you're making a difference in a young person's life will never be taken away. I started this off by saying I can have an impact on a young person's life, and I've given you 3 to 5 stories about how it's a direct impact. You know, I had a guy call me last night. He said, "Coach, you got Brad a job, and I think if you can get Brad a job, I know you can get me one. Because can you call so-and-so for me?" I said, "I'll be glad." In the last 3 weeks, I've gotten 5 people jobs off of a recommendation. I have an email right now that I have to fill out for somebody who I'm pretty confident will get. Because we've developed a friendship and a relationship that goes far beyond a win and a loss. Now, we all want to win, we all want to be successful. Some are not going to be able to do it because of our resources, but the reality is there is a much bigger picture, a much bigger gain, and a much bigger reward when you deal with young people and what they do on a day-to-day basis. For those watching, you can help out with the Bobcat Club, endow some scholarships, facility enhancements, budget help. Your gifts will make a difference because we are. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.